Hello, everyone. My name is Julie McVeigh, and this is Unordinary Made Ordinary, where we talk about extraordinary experiences of everyday people. And today we're talking with Valerie Maluchnik. Welcome, Valerie.
Thanks for having me again, Julie.
Glad you're here. It's been a whole 3 months, but we're going to talk about some new stuff today, and I'm excited about it. So
Yeah, me too. And it's great to catch up with you in a different cycle of the year. So the energies are flowing right now. We're getting ready for the new year.
Yes, I sense it too. Would you please just share a little bit about yourself, maybe a little background for the listeners?
Um, so I went through my awakening about 10 years ago, but I've always been energetically sensitive. I'm a stay-at-home mom of two kids with special needs, so they're very energetically sensitive as well. And So it's just been 10 years of learning how to be energetically responsible with myself, with my family, with my clients, and helping my kids navigate a world where we kind of shun being sensitive beings and being our true
Mm,
selves.
mm, very good. How you said they're little, they're still little kids.
So I have one that's a teenager,
Oh, okay.
and that one's been interesting. She's, at an age now where even though she sometimes comes to me for help, she knows everything. So,
Ah,
and it's been a lesson for me to learn that that's not my job to shift or adjust anymore. It is her life to lead now. I've
mm,
laid the groundwork that I could, and I'm still here for her when she needs me. So, but
very,
my other one
very
is
good.
little and still, he's actually sitting over there. Um,
Oh,
so they're all off for Christmas break. But yeah, so he is, I have really cool stories about him,
yeah.
being super sensitive, things that we kind of like write off, when you hear stories of infants talking to, or interacting with loved ones that have crossed over.
Yeah.
um, there was one time that that was my awakening moment for realizing how sensitive children can be. Like I always knew,
Mm.
um, but so I was at a circle, so it was like a meditation circle, and it was during Samhain time, so like the darker going into darker times of the year. That's around Halloween. So we did a circle on the dying of yourself. So this person
Mm.
is facilitating a meditation and you basically die, and it strips you down to what your greatest fear is. And I was there standing alone as a little girl. And that's true. One of my greatest
Oh,
fears was being alone. And it was just pitch black, and I've always been terrified of the dark.
mm-hmm.
Um, and so I'm standing there as a little girl, very upset, crying. And all of a sudden I look down and my son is with me and he's hugging my leg. And he just looks up at me and smiles, and it made everything better. So we go through the rest of the meditation. He kind of fades away. I drive home and my son was sleeping in my bed. So I went to go move him back to his bed so I could go to sleep. And he looks up at me and he says, "Mom, I saw you." And I was like, "What do you mean you saw me?" And he said, "You were really sad. And so I gave you a hug."
Whoa.
And in that moment, like I even still get teary eyed. In that moment, I realized, so many times we write off children's dreams or our dreams and experiences.
True.
And instead of letting them just unfold the way that they're meant to unfold and just really be his true self. And he really projected to me and he remembered. He doesn't really remember much now. But it was really super cool to see that happen and be that concrete.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. If only we were, I wish I had been, well, can't talk about that. We were just sharing about our past, and I'm like, I wish I would have been a little more open like that as a parent when my kids were little.
Yeah, I know, totally. And there are things that I look back on with my daughter that I'm like, man, I really wish I would have known more about chakras and energy and grounding
Yeah.
and how easily children read situations with people and areas, which I'll talk a little bit about too. But like, I feel like we're so quick to be like, oh no, you have to go hug this person. You know,
Right.
that's
Oh,
it's your
yeah.
grandmother. You have to hug them. You have to let them
Yes.
give you a kiss. And like now I'm at this point where they know what their energy wants to interact with, and I shouldn't
Mm.
force that upon them. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of mistakes I made with my daughter that are lessons that as an adult, as I'm an adult, but now she's reaching a point where I do apologize for things because I want her to grow up and be an adult that also apologizes for mistakes. So
Very
yeah.
good. Very wise. Can I ask you, I think you've shared this on the last interview, but if you could just, for the listeners listening now, what is it that first got you interested in these supernatural kinds of topics?
So my dad has always been sensitive, but he wouldn't talk about it. But he was always really interested in like ghost shows and stuff. So like growing up, I was always around ghost hunting. Not that we did it, but we watched it, learned about
Mm,
aliens. Some of it was very
wow.
traumatizing from TLC, but you know,
Oh,
um, I've learned over the years that aliens are not all scary, so it's fine. But no, so I just had kind of like a rude awakening after years of kind of ignoring the other side and what my abilities were. And it happened in Vegas. And I ended up not understanding because I didn't understand my own energetic responsibility, my own protections, what my energy can handle. I ended up getting really sick and getting an attachment in Vegas. And it kind of led me down a path of learning mediumship, psychic, shamanism, and anything I can really, anything that draws my attention, but anything energetic. Like it's once you open, as you know, once you open those floodgates of things, all of a sudden, all of this stuff comes in. You're like, oh, I want to learn about this and I want to learn about this.
a lot. It's
Yeah,
too much. It's so much. How long have you been involved now in all of this?
about 10 years.
Oh, it's been 10, yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your focus nowadays?
Well, right now, because I've just moved to Hawaii in the last year, it's been really working with the earth. But then I also have a Facebook group where I work with people on opening up and becoming whatever they're meant to be. I don't feel like I need to be a teacher of specific things. I just want to be your cheerleader and kind of give you resources and information or people that will help you in what you're interested in. Although right now everybody's kind of on like that Christmas, let's just share a bunch of really fun memes, which is what my energy needs right now as well too. So
So you're, excuse me. So how did you become so well versed, well informed? Was it through books, or did you go to classes? And
both.
do you offer classes for others now? Are you at that
Yeah,
level?
so I did go to school to become a certified psychic medium. And that was kind of the beginning of the process. And then I've just been studying shamanism and all things energy since. I don't hyper focus on like
Mhm.
just mediumship or just psychic because I feel like it all kind of intertwines. And I do so I offer personal one-on-one mentorships, and I offer classes as well. And my next class is coming up next week
Oh,
for energetic responsibility and empath protection, which I feel like is something that all of us could use, even if we don't feel like we're quote unquote empaths, we're all energetic beings,
mhm.
and really understanding what that means and what we can do to keep ourselves and our spaces balanced.
The course is in a week. How long is the course?
It's just an hour-long protection course. And then
Oh,
if it seems like people have, and you can come with questions, and certain situations, like I know a lot of people have like specific events that they want to know, why did this happen to me? What can I do in the future to stop it from happening? I
mm,
got that a lot when I was working in the crystal shop the last couple of years, which I've moved, so I don't work there anymore. Um,
mm.
but you can come with questions like that, and I can help navigate what you can do in the future, although all of those things that happen to us are lessons. So it's important to embrace those and see where we can shift to move forward in a more positive way.
What kinds of things happen to people when they're not, so it's when they're not protecting their energy?
Well, it could be anything from walking into a room that's had a previous argument and you can feel, like I call it squishy. You can feel like the heaviness
Mm-hmm.
of the space. So what you can do in that to make yourself feel more balanced, because you don't always have the option of leaving, if it's a work environment or you're
Right.
at a family member's house and you don't have a ride home, whatever, you may be in a situation where you can't just walk out.
Mm-hmm.
So in the class, we'll talk about ways that you can protect yourself. Um,
Hmm.
and then other situations could even be things like even as serious as abuse, and how do we, move
Mm.
forward from that, release that. And the importance of releasing past abuse, whether that be just verbal abuse, emotional abuse, it could be any type. The importance of releasing that past trauma is that we don't call it in again in the future. But
Mm.
if I look at ourselves as like we're all our own fingerprint, right? Every fingerprint is different. And so our energy is our own personal energetic signature or fingerprint.
Mm.
And when we have trauma on there, it what we put out is what we're calling in. So we are going to be calling in that same cycle of significant
Okay.
others or
Attracting.
family members or situations. Yes. And so if,
Okay.
like I know for myself years ago, I was always attracted to guys that were addicts, that were
Uh-huh.
verbally abusive, manipulative. And through years of work, I have now released that cycle as best I can. And it does bubble back up, but now I can recognize it. And I have the tools in my tool bag
Mm.
to not allow that to affect my energy anymore. So that's basically one of the big reasons why I wanted to do this class.
Now, this video is going to come out probably not for a couple weeks, so the class will be over. Are you going to do more of these next year?
Yes. So I do have quite a few people who can't make the class. So
Okay.
my plan is, so if you're interested in a mentorship, which is more intense one-on-one, we meet every other week and talk about your specific energetic needs and interests.
Mm.
You can find me on in the information below here. I know Julie's going to add that.
Yeah.
And then also the information for future classes and events will be in my Facebook group, which the information will be below for that as well.
Okay. Okay. I'm curious. You had said, trying to help with if you've had different kinds of abuse in your life and what maybe your energy signature is attracting that.
Mhm.
Could this also be, could your energy signature be um, from your past lives, like abuse from your past lives? And
I
do you
Go
work
ahead.
the same way with the person if it's a current life or a past life sort of abusive situation that's affecting them?
So I feel like if it's a past life abuse situation, it can repeat, right? Because we're doing that repetitive cycle into this. So it's part of our energetic signature. We can do past life healings, but I feel like if that information comes up, so say I have a past life, and I've gone through emotional trauma with my parents,
Mm-hmm.
and someone reads that for me, or I've received that information and I know it needs to be healed, then we can work on putting those pieces back in if they're ready. But I don't feel like if it's repeating in this lifetime, then it's stuff that needs to be healed now, if that makes sense. Like past life information is important to an extent, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to use that as an excuse for us to continue the victim mindset either of this is only repeating because of past life. There has to be
Sure.
something now that is repeating.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that sounds really like a very helpful course. And
Mhm.
so this first time you're teaching it? Or
Well, teaching it not one-on-one, so more on like a Zoom basis with other people. So I'm interested to see how it goes.
yeah.
But I have talked about it with clients constantly. So I just felt like there was a really big need for it.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Mhm.
it seems like I'm hearing more and more. people come out and say, I think I'm an empath.
Mhm.
I take on the energies of others. I'm hearing this more. Can you maybe give me a little more information, specifically, like what does it mean to be an empath?
Come at me if you want, but I personally feel like empath is just the cool term for it right now.
Okay,
Whereas before it was like indigo child, you've heard of
right.
indigo children,
I
crystal
have.
children.
Yeah.
Empath is just a cool word that's really popular right now. We all have the ability to be energetically sensitive. It's how much are we bringing our awareness to it. There are
Hmm.
those of us that our strengths lie more in being able to read energy. So
Okay.
those would be the ones that are really energetically sensitive.
Okay.
Because there are, I mean, if you think about it, everybody could walk into a room and feel if it feels weird. It's how much are they paying attention to it? Are they letting it
Okay.
affect them, or are they just kind of like blowing it off and being distracted by something else in the room? But if somebody walked in and was always open to being energetically sensitive, then they would immediately feel this and it would immediately affect them in a negative way. Did that come out right?
Um, yeah, I'm interested in this in specifically because, well, I don't want to talk too personally about me, but I mean, I sometimes I'll go into a situation and I'll start to get physically ill. Is that possible?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Yes. Uh, Go ahead.
so I didn't realize, I'm thinking maybe that's why sometimes I'm, I don't know, it's almost like I feel like I have to prepare myself mentally sometimes to be more, to have a more successful experience in a social situation.
Yes, and that
Otherwise,
is you putting up protections,
oh,
boundaries in some way, shape, or form. That's one of the things that we can do to prepare ourselves for going to the situations. But it's important to listen to your body as well, because there are times that I had a boss that every time I was going to go to work that whole morning, I would have an upset stomach and have to be in the bathroom all day. And over time, I realized that that was my energy telling me not to go there because the energy
yes.
was that negative. And so,
Okay.
like to me, that's
Wow.
like right in your solar plexus, right? That's where your feeling
Yep.
is.
Yep.
And so if you're because your energy is giving you signs before it becomes physical. So if you're ignoring like
Oh, how
the
funny.
the vibrations of being like, oh, you probably shouldn't go there, and then in your head you're like, well, I haven't been there in a long time, or oh, it's my boss and I have to go, and then all of a sudden it'll start to go beyond energy and become physical.
Interesting. Okay. Story of my life I'm hearing right now.
I know, I
What
know,
in
I
the
know.
world? So that just means there's some energetic sensitivity going on.
Hmm.
That's what you would call it. And that's not the same thing as being an empath. That's more of the
I think it
buzzword.
is. I think empath is just a buzzword. I do. And
Okay.
I use it for the course because everybody knows what it is.
Oh,
So
okay.
and it
Yeah.
is what it is. Empath is being energetically sensitive more
Okay.
so than the average person. But I don't like using terms or labels because I don't want to use it as a crutch.
Okay.
You do have control over your own energy. You don't have to use this ailment per se of
Right.
being an empath. I can't do that
Right.
because I'm an empath. No, you can
Right.
do
I can't
anything.
go anywhere. I have to stay home because I'm an empath. I'm not going.
Well,
No.
it's crazy because you see I see it on TikTok all the time of these people talking about how they're empaths and they can't do certain things. And if it's
Wow.
something you truly want to do, you
Learn.
can. It's
Mm.
what can you do to prepare and protect your energy before you do those things.
Mm.
Don't use crutches. I used to use being afraid of the dark as a crutch all the time.
Mhm.
And then once I realized that there was nothing to be afraid of in the dark and I could protect myself, that crutch fell away. And it literally felt like I lost 1,000 pounds of weight because I had been
Wow.
afraid since I was a little child, mostly because I could feel the energy of spirit being
Mm.
an empath, right? An energetically sensitive child.
Mm.
I could feel the energy of everything, the earth, the room, the rock underneath the house. You can feel spirit, aliens, like it's all energy. But if you don't know what to do with that, it can show itself as fears and irrational fears.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was afraid of the dark because I couldn't see what I was feeling. And
Mm.
now I realize that there's nothing to be fearful of. I fear the living more than I fear anything that's energetic because I can protect myself from those things.
Yeah, good point. And so you would consider being energetically sensitive would you consider it a psychic ability?
Yes.
It's in that category.
Because
Okay.
it has to do with the chakras. I mean, and your energy, right? Your whole aura is always expanded.
Mhm.
And this is something that I'll talk about in the class, but because your energy is always open,
Oh, right.
it is definitely like a psychic connection with either the room or the energy that's left. I mean, it's all
Hmm.
energy. It goes down a rabbit hole of like, if I have an argument with my husband, I have left a ball of icky energy in
Interesting.
the room.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And that can be cleansed out if somebody's aware enough to do that.
Mm.
Or if you have like a racist uncle who comes over for Thanksgiving, he has left that energy in your space. And
Right,
I will
right.
talk about cleansing your space and protecting your space and honoring your space in the class as
Ah,
well. But it's important to be mindful of what you are allowing into your energy, your space, your family, because this is all your sacred
yeah.
energy.
Yeah. I remember at the end of our last interview, you encouraged me to use an affirmation after each interview for my energy, for the sake of my own energy, um, which was very helpful, and I appreciate that. So this is really
You're welcome.
interesting. I do have a couple more questions unrelated to this topic, but before we go
Yeah.
there, was there anything I don't, because I know you had you had a few notes and you wanted to cover a few things. I don't want you to miss out on, because this is an interesting topic, the empath or energetically sensitive person, because I haven't learned too much about it. So I appreciate this.
Yeah, no, I think that the only other thing I really wanted to bring home was that anything and everything that you touch and interact with, you are exchanging your energy with. So if you are opening the door at a gas station to go in and get coffee, and then you push the button on the coffee machine, and you have now exchanged
Wow.
energy with anybody that has been there previous. And it goes even deeper into like relationships that you've been intimate with other people. You're exchanging that
Wow.
energy.
Yeah.
And so really understanding and
Mm,
calling back your energy to you and releasing anything from anybody else is so important in
mm.
you becoming your own divine being.
Wow. I never thought of that before. And now my mind is spinning. Um, So it doesn't matter if I use my shirt to open the door. Now with
Now it's on
this,
your shirt.
now it's still
If
on
you
my
think about
shirt.
it,
Doesn't
yeah, because
matter.
now you've
Okay.
got, and even when you order things, from the internet and it comes, or mail comes in the house, it's all
Yeah,
touched. The different postal workers, different people that have
right.
made it.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it's really about like, and there have been times where I've gotten things and it feels off. And so I'll
Interesting.
cleanse those things.
Hmm.
But just follow your intuition. You don't have to sage everything that comes into your home. You don't have
Okay, I was going to
to,
ask, how do you
yeah,
cleanse things? Just
yeah.
usually
Um,
sage?
it depends on how I'm feeling. I use selenite for a lot of things. I have a
Hmm.
big selenite wands. That's a white crystal. I see a tower behind you
Yeah.
there. That's the highest vibration crystal. And I really use that because sage can't, even though I do use it, I try to use it very sparingly because it
Oh.
is unethically sourced in most places right now.
Oh.
And I don't
Wow.
want to, so just making sure that you're getting it from,
Grow your own?
um, yeah, grow your own and dry your own. It's super easy to do. I have some that I did here and I wrapped with rose petals too.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I just don't. And same thing with Palo Santo, just making sure you're getting it from an authorized dealer because um, there are things that have been mixed in with it. I've
Mm.
gotten Palo Santo where it's been a wood chip with just scent wrapped around the outside or sprayed on the outside.
Oh my.
So, and Palo Santo itself is one of my favorite cleansers because it has a little bit more masculine energy, and we tend to fill our homes with floral scents, very feminine, floaty energy. So we want that balance.
Mm.
But Palo Santo, it's a holy wood, and so it's just very nice, high vibration with that grounding of the wood. But just making sure you get it from an
Mm.
authorized dealer.
Okay, cool. So if it's okay, I'm just curious about a couple other
Yeah,
things. If it's all right, it's kind of off the topic a little
yeah, for sure.
bit, but still related to energy. Everything's energy.
Hmm.
So last time, and it's okay if you don't want to talk about ETs or Bigfoot.
Oh, I'm down.
You are? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Well, I did an interview yesterday, as you know, with Ginger about Bigfoot, and I know you had some interest. And could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Like your experiences?
I've had experience with Bigfoot, not on the level as Ginger,
Oh, okay.
which, Ginger's very open and very laser focused, whereas I feel like my focus is kind of everywhere for a lot of things. I love all things energy. I work with, things other, so backtrack, don't get too far. Bigfoot is an energetic being. He or she can show themselves as physical beings. I have not seen them that way.
Oh,
I
okay.
see them in my third eye, and I've only seen them maybe twice, and I go hiking a lot. Um, I can
Oh,
sense when they're there. And the way that happens is the same thing that comes in with psychic stuff. Your energy is open, you're kind of in this meditative state. So your vibration is higher, as we were
I
just talking about before
see.
we jumped on. Your vibration gets higher. And all of a sudden, something will pop in about like either the word Bigfoot, or I will smell something that like reminds me of something that reminds me of Bigfoot. So it just kind of is this snowball effect, and I just know that one is there, but I cannot
Mm,
see it with my physical eyes. Um,
okay.
but that's also how I have experienced interactions with angels and ETs.
Okay. So maybe when we go hiking, well, you're in an area maybe that can they show up anywhere then? Because if they're or what's it called? Interdimensional psychic beings, can
So
they show up?
according to Ginger, who's really into the Bigfoot community,
Hmm.
because her and I had done a chat about our Bigfoot experiences on my YouTube. And we talked about, I asked her about Hawaii because I do see some of the same similar structures. So they leave these structures in the
Yeah.
forest where you'll see like an asterisk or something.
Yes.
Yes. And so I was hiking with my son by the beach when we were cleaning one day, and there was a huge one, and I was like, that has to be a biggie structure. Like it just has,
Ooh,
to me, like the scent all over it. So I asked her and she said yes, but they are not as hairy and they're smaller, um, just because the climate is different here. So
I
that is,
see.
I haven't seen them
Interesting.
yet, but I will get back to you.
Yeah,
If
she had the photo behind her of the asterisk star structure that they make. She took a picture of one while she was out, um, and it was her background. So yeah, that's so interesting. I didn't realize this, and that all of this is new to me. I didn't know that they were um, interdimensional and that they came in all these colors. She said even white, like
Mhm.
brown, red, black, white. White, really? And then the eyes. I didn't know any of that about the eyes, that they
The
glow
eyes is super
in
cool.
different
The eyes
colors.
glow and change colors. Yeah, which makes sense. And to me, it would associate with the different chakras, right? So, how are they feeling?
Oh, right, right.
Because every color of the rainbow, every color that's emitted has to do with certain frequencies. Just like red doesn't always mean mad. It could mean grounding. It could mean fearful is a big one for red too. That's where the lower one. So
Huh.
maybe they're a little bit nervous or apprehensive. Just feel into it. If you do experience a Bigfoot, if you're listening to this and you experience a Bigfoot at some point, feel into it. Don't just go with your initial fearful reaction or intimidated reaction. Really feel, because that's how they're going to communicate. It's all telepathic and energetically
Yeah.
communicated.
Well, I'd be less fearful now. I mean, I back in the day, I didn't know anything. Well, this is my this is all of kind of new to me. But I thought it was like an animal or an advanced animal. And now, no. That's why I would be fearful,
Right.
because animals are instinctive and you don't want to be in their space because they might maul you.
For
But
sure.
now
I
that,
think that a lot of that has to do with the media, though. And I know that because I've been friends with Ginger for years. We had one of the same shaman teachers together, so we have a great connection. And there's been times that Ginger's been asked to do shows, and she's had to turn it down because they want her to portray Bigfoot as
yes,
something fearful or have somebody who's afraid or a skeptic. And
yeah,
and so to me, what we see on TV about aliens, about angels, about God, about anything has been manipulated a little bit.
yes,
So
right.
really trust your intuition.
Yes, I'm learning that more and more. And if you could share a little bit about ETs too, like what is it called? Species? Is that what you would call it? Have you
So
met?
I can talk about my experiences because I know I don't want to speak for all because everybody has different experiences.
Yeah.
I've had some very positive experiences. I've had some very negative experiences.
Oh.
Um, I do work with them. So I have a council that I work with, an energetic council. When I do what TV would call like an exorcism, but it's like a negative energy removal on
Hmm.
somebody. Because everything is energy and I don't like putting labels on things. But if you were to understand what I'm talking about, that's what it would be. So a negative energy removal.
Okay.
I call upon certain high vibrational extraterrestrials, but I call them high vibrational beings because it falls under that umbrella category.
Mm.
Because I don't really think that they're aliens or extraterrestrial. They exist on the same plane as us, in the
Mm.
same existence as us. They just vibrate either way higher or way lower than us. And so we can't always see them with our physical eyes. So I do work with them. But the ones that I've experienced so far, I have seen with my physical eyes and in photos. But the photos are like, you ever see a photo where it's super grainy,
Hmm.
and then in the grain,
Grainy.
I can make out certain facial structures.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of how we found out that we had some issues in our old house with the grays, which are the typical ones that you see in movies and TV with that very like inverted triangle shaped head, the big eyes,
Hmm.
and not all of them are going to be negative, but the ones that we were experiencing they were mischievous would be a good word. They just like to kind of
Okay.
mess with the energy in the home.
Hmm.
Um,
And
and
you got,
so,
so you were taking pictures around your home and you just happened to see them in the picture?
yeah, of my
Oh,
son playing. So,
okay. Gotcha.
so that's where it kind of like snowballed into studying shamanism because it was at first I was a medium. That's what I was working on. And then all of a sudden, all of these other energetic beings started stepping forward. And I'm like, I need to learn about these. How do I
Mm.
work with these? How do I protect against these?
Mm.
So yeah, so I did have them in the home. I had to set some boundaries on my property. Because again, like we talked about, my son is very energetically sensitive, as a lot of kids are. And so they can call in things or things are
Mm.
attracted to them,
Hmm.
like a mosquito to like a bright light, right?
Hmm.
Your child or you are a bright light and they're attracted to that. I didn't know at the time anything of protections. So I had experienced them. They hadn't done anything bad. Like there was no injuries. I don't have any stories of abductions or probing or anything super fun like that. But they were just in our space and they didn't
Yeah.
feel good. So, but since then, I have seen, and they're a blue bird, but it's like a man. Have you seen
Oh
Never Ending
gosh.
Story?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Never Ending Story, and I think it was two, where there was a taller bird man. Um,
Oh man.
yeah, I can't remember
Yeah.
his name, but yeah, so there was, so to me, that's how it looked, but it was blue and it
Mm.
was very tall. And I have since found other people who have seen the same blue avian type extraterrestrial.
Mm.
Um, but nothing more than just like I'm here with you. It was in a meditation. You'll have to wait. Give me one second, I'm so sorry.
Still a
So I
mom,
yeah,
even when you're being
all the
interviewed.
time. Yeah, so the blue avian just kind of stepped forward and stood by my side, and it let me know that there are more than just like the ickier feeling ones. And it didn't feel weird. He was very nice and calming. Um, and then since then, it's just kind of opened the floodgates for I have seen even on famous people, which I'm not going to get into that, but um, higher vibration or lower vibration attachments of extraterrestrials or
Oh,
beings. Um, so I kind of, and that's not mine to say or adjust or do. It's just when you can see them or feel them or vibe it, I just keep it in my pocket. So they're everywhere, you know, all over the place.
do I have any around me right now? You know,
Always, we do. They are on our team. I mean, they're just right alongside with like angels. And to me, if you're concerned about things being lower vibration in your space and you
mhm,
really feel like there's something lower vibration, then reach out to somebody who knows. Usually a shaman would be the best person to work with things like that.
mhm,
Um, but I feel like everybody is on their path and doing what they're meant to do. So it's not mine to adjust
mm,
unless somebody finds their way to me.
hmm. But you said you work also with, did you say council of ETs? Is
Yeah,
that right?
so they're
Okay.
a council of different, so you've heard of like the reptilians, right, which tend to get like a negative rap, but there is one on my council who I've talked to that he says that there are some of them that have broken away from that and
Mhm.
they're there to kind of like balance the battle.
Okay.
Um, and then there are other ones on there that I don't know what they are. They're just glowing.
Mm,
I've seen a lot of Palladians. Um, I've assisted with a healing of somebody who had Palladians with them. And by assisted, I mean like I was watching them work. So I was facilitating the healing by allowing that connection and basically being like the psychic person who could see what they were doing and relay that back to the person after the healing. But it wasn't my healing to perform. They were
mm.
doing it.
And they couldn't see the person that was being healed couldn't see the Palladians.
Mm-mm. Yeah, correct.
Okay. Is there a reason why not? Like they would, is it the person or the Palladians are like, no, let's not be seen to
It
this
could be
person
either
right now?
or.
Oh,
Some people's strengths lie within different areas. And so I do a lot of distance healing, a lot of trance healing. So I can
mm,
send my energy kind of like an out of body experience where you can kind of just go somewhere.
uh-huh.
And so I can go somewhere and I will get different information for them during the healing sessions and relay that back to them.
Okay. Can I ask what kinds of healings you've done? Well, obviously I know the energetic negative energy,
I
but
do removals. I do Reiki. A lot of it is Reiki and just balancing. And then
chakra
giving like, yeah,
balancing.
chakra balancing. Thanks. And grounding. But I do soul retrievals, which is those pieces of kind of putting back of things that we've lost along the way, whether it's this life or another. And then, of
Mm,
course, if somebody is really feeling like life is off and they feel like they've either had a spell done to them, which again is energy, or they
mm,
have a negative attachment or things like that, I do those as well. And that really is where a lot of my strength has lied in the last 5 or 6 years, is helping people realize that they don't have to succumb to being stuck in a certain energetic way. You know, you can have this stuff removed off of you and you can move forward in a positive way.
I know we're running out of time, but I was wondering if you could give your understanding of reincarnation, um, and like, do you have plans? Do we have free will? Do you personally have plans to come back to this planet? Like, what's your feelings about that?
Um,
I know it's a common question for
no,
people.
it is my computer is going to die, so
Oh
I'm just going to
no.
plug this in really quick, but still talk. So I think that it is happening simultaneously. So whereas you'll see a lot of stuff online that talk about how, we want to leave this planet, we don't want to come back, and I get that life is frustrating. But I feel like we're constantly living and dying. It is all like, because in our minds time is linear, right? But past lives are happening at the exact same time as future lives. And so I feel like our life as we know it right now, we could just die, but then we're jumping to another timeline. Did that come out? Did that make sense?
So you don't think there's a time, I guess there's no other way to say it, but use the word time. There is no time that we're not on the planet Earth living a life.
I think that we are living all lives all at once. So whether that be our earthly lives, but also our energetic lives, but also, lives as males, lives as females, lives as, people that are assisting above, or below or all around. I I do feel like it's just timeline jumping
Hmm,
constantly. So that whole fear of dying is ridiculous in my mind now at this point. Like that was always a really big fear, the fear of the unknown. But I
yeah.
feel like this body will eventually die, but my consciousness is existing in all lives at the same time. So it's just going to jump and I won't even notice this is gone. That's why when I do like mediumship readings, we really are doing them for the people that are still living because
Yeah.
we're the ones that mourn the people that have passed.
Yeah.
Um, even though they've moved on. And not that they don't have messages for those that are here, but they are off doing their own thing, honestly.
When you say, when this body dies, you'll just, kind of wake up in another or become conscious in another body somewhere else. Are you saying though that you can't come back to Valerie? You can never experience Valerie's life in the way you are experiencing it right now.
No, not in the same way. I
Okay.
feel like there are other me's existing. I mean, look at how much we change and grow. Like we're already jumping timelines. And how do we not know that that part of us hasn't died and everybody else has jumped
Hmm.
to the next timeline with us? Like there's a whole rabbit
Mm.
hole of stuff. But
Yeah.
I do really truly believe, because think about how much you've changed in the last few years and the things that
Yeah.
you've accomplished and grown and shifted. It's totally different than who you were even 10 years ago,
Oh
20
yeah.
years ago. So I feel like we're constantly shifting and jumping timelines.
Right.
And some of those jumps will
Absolutely.
include this body dying, but it doesn't mean that this
Yes.
body or doesn't exist in another timeline, but it's definitely not going to be the same consciousness,
Mm.
exact same consciousness. It's not going to have the same energetic fingerprint as this one.
Gotcha. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, we could go down a bunch of rabbit holes, couldn't we? But we're out of time. But we can always do this again.
I love
Um,
talking to you.
yeah, really interesting stuff. I love it. Um, okay, so we will be putting all your links, just to remind the listeners, we're going to put all your links in the video description so they can connect with you, join your future classes, or join your group. What's your group called
Yes.
again?
It's Healing for the Soul with Golden Serafina. So I think if you just type in Healing for the Soul on Facebook, it'll come up. It's a private group. I think that's super important because
Mhm.
things that we can share and experience, we don't want everybody knowing. So private group, and all walks are welcome. If you're an
Nice.
artist or if you're a witch or if you hang out with Bigfoot or aliens, whatever, where everyone's welcome.
Love it. I love that inclusive take. Thank you, Valerie, once again,
Thank
for taking the
you.
time to hang out and visit with me. And thank you to everyone watching. This has been Julie McVeigh with Unordinary Made Ordinary. And I hope you'll join us next time for another fascinating interview. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up or hit the like button. And then if you like this type of content, of course, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you're alerted to these videos in the future. I hope you're having a fantastic day or evening, wherever you are on the planet or off the planet, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.